Dear brothers, it's about quality, not quantity.
So guys, it should be your conversation, the way you flow, your presence is enough for a woman to want to be around you, not how much money you spend.
Dear sisters, it's about knowing your value.
My sisters out there, don't be afraid to scare a guy off just because you have standards.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, it's time to come together.
Yo, what up? Back in the DBDS Live studio. It's your man Mo. I'm here with my man Mel Money. Hit him up, Mel Money.
Hey, what's going on, my peoples? Listen, we got an exciting, dope show for you guys today. Before we kick the show off, just want to make sure that prayers up to everyone handling this whole virus pandemic. Just stay safe and just focus and show support to your loved ones. So before we get started, I just like to announce the winners of the DBDS package giveaway. And big shout out to Fran. She won a DBDS t-shirt along with our Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters Listen Up book. And Rika and Jacqueline, they also had amazing responses, and they also won a DBDS shirt as well. So thank you for everyone that participate, and we will have other incentives down the road.
Clap.
No doubt, man. Cheers to my peoples, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, so this show, we're going to be talking about effective communication. All right. So listen, we got a lot of good information about to come your way. But before we kick that off, I want Mel Money to let y'all know what DBDS is all about.
Absolutely. So DBDS, what we about, we promote thoughtful relationship topics on social media, our live show, and other outlets to help people to become a better version of themselves. We want people to embrace respect, love, and loyalty and have healthier relationships. In doing so, change how you are, but don't change who you are. And a better version of yourself creates healthier relationship. Healthier relationships create healthier families, and healthier families create healthier communities. So let's get this show on the road. Yes.
All right. Now, so here it is right now. We about to let me give you a little intro on today's show. So here's the thing, man. Think about this one. In any relationship, let's say a relationship with your boss, your domestic partner, a relationship with your children, a relationship with your neighbor, communication is king. Okay, the way you communicate, what you say, how you say it, your voice tone, you know, the message that you want to convey, your body language, all of that, the volume in which you say it, it all matters. Communication matters. You could be successful or unsuccessful when dealing with other people based on how you communicate. Now, one thing a lot of people need to remember is that communication starts from across the room. You know, it's not just verbal, it's nonverbal too, you know, because humans can sense a vibe and intent. Okay, we may not always be right, but we can sense that vibe and intent. So right now, we're going to bring in our special guest is going to help us, you know, cover this topic. Right now, I want to bring in my guest from Connecticut, my girl, Terri. Welcome to the show, Terri.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Good. Welcome to the show. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, Terri.
Well, I am single. I work in New York City, but I live in Connecticut, and it's really hard. You know, communication is my thing because I'm tired at night. I can be like a little sketchy with communication, but I definitely need to do more of it. So I know when to see how people are communicating, what needs to be done, how we can fix it. Because, you know, it's hard when you're working and you got a whole bunch going on. Sometimes we just shut down. So, and I also know men suck at communication.
Raw and unfiltered, people. So like I said, we got the raw, unfiltered show. I forgot to tell y'all, I'm sorry for the shock in all value, but it's coming, baby. It's coming. All right. So we gonna address that men communication, that men suck communication also in a minute here. All right. So right now I'm gonna bring in my man out of GA, my man Chance coming out of Georgia. Chance, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, how's it going, fellas? And how y'all gonna bring me in after that? Come on now. Hold on, y'all about to get the black screen now.
Listen. We know you can handle it, man. We know you can handle it, man.
Look, I'm like Bernie Mac. I ain't scared of you.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Hey, tell the people a little bit about yourself, Chance.
Oh, hey, this is Chance Santos, originally from up north, Boston and Brooklyn, but right now currently residing in ATL. I'm a director of security. I got my real estate license in 2 different states. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my feet wet on a little bit of everything because I believe in multiple streams of income.
No doubt.
Mm,
That never
love
hurts,
that.
does it? That
Yeah,
never hurt. You ain't never scared, Chance. You ain't never scared, brother.
yes, indeed.
All right. And our final guest we're bringing into the show right now is my girl, Tia. Coming in, Tia.
Hey, hi everybody. How are you?
Good.
Hey,
Welcome to the
Happy
show.
Sunday.
Yes. Welcome to the show. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, Tia.
So I am a relationship coach, two-time author, and brand strategist. And communication just happens to be my specialty. So hopefully I'll demonstrate
ooh,
a good form of communicating today.
love it.
Maybe.
No doubt. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. We really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and jump just off. Mel Money, kick us off, man.
Yeah, so we got a section called the DBDS Anonymous section where people post their issues and they look for, healthy advisors to help them elevate their relationship. So here it goes. So it reads, my husband and I have been together for 2 years, married for 4. It's been a tough road from year 1. We really have a tough time communicating, in my opinion. What most would deem a normal discussion ends in a massive fight. Getting him to help out around the house ends up in the fight, and he always storms out and claims we're beefing. When I ask for help, he gets defensive. Well, last night it all hit the fan. It wasn't a good day all around because the quarantine has caused him to lose his job, and he couldn't hold it together. So he called me out my name and began to punch holes in the wall. I grabbed the broomstick and swung at him, but I missed. Then I pick up the remote control to the TV and threw it at him. After our physical encounter, we calmed down, and then he asked me to do a meal prep schedule so he would know what to expect for lunch and dinner. I said to myself that you got to be kidding me. I already am doing all the shopping, all the cooking, and all the cleaning, and now he wants to organize it all in his schedule so he knows what he's getting. What is this, a cafeteria? So I said I need some help, and if you want more, I just want help. I need help with the cleaning and everything I mentioned. This turned into another massive fight, and he began to break our glass kitchen table with his baseball bat. Then he refused to eat the dinner I made for him. He left, and I haven't heard from him since last night. He won't answer my texts or my phone calls, and I truly miss him, and I love him. I'm not sure I'm really asking anything here, but if anyone has tips to help our relationship to get better, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so listen, I saw some facial features. So listen, man, I tell y'all, nonverbal body language says a lot. So I'm going right to Terry. Terry, talk to us on this one.
First of all, thank your blessings, get a locksmith, and go on with your life. Because anybody who's breaking stuff with a bat, demanding things, and honestly, it's a child. You're dealing with a man-child, and he needs to go back to school. I know you love him. I know you want it to work. But honestly, you're dealing with someone who's extremely immature. It's only going to get worse before it gets better. Some men do not have the vocabulary to express themselves, or are able to let their walls down to express themselves. And whenever they resort to physical violence like that, it's only a matter of time before it turns on you. So be glad you didn't get the bat. The table got the bat. Count your blessings, get on with your life. Simple.
Ooh.
You only put in 2 years, 24 months. It ain't long, sister.
Chance, my man, thoughts on this?
Hey, look, I'm going to piggyback off of what Terry said. This relationship was clearly done before it even started. And as far as this dude punching holes in the walls and breaking tables, guess what? You're next. If love is blind, clearly this woman is related to Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, because she's blind as a damn bat, and she can't see that this is just the wrong individual. And the fixing it, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but do you really want to put yourself through all that? And if you're that much in love, clearly you're gonna need some counseling with this one.
Tia, can I get your thoughts on this?
Well, mine is a little different from theirs because we're ignoring the fact that both of them having troubles communicating with each other. Because before he initiated doing anything to the table or any of that, she tried to hit him with the broomstick. So the first act of physical aggression against another person was on the wife. And I'm not saying that he was right to call her out of her name and do any of that kind of stuff. I'm just saying that they're both equally responsible for the lack of communication and the escalation in this situation. They both need to do some counseling. She needs to figure out why she wants to be with someone who would treat her like this. And he needs to figure out how to cope as a man who's no longer able to provide. It sounds like he's been the provider or the head of the household, and losing his job is kind of like losing a little bit of his masculinity. And for a man, that's tough when you're used to being able to provide and now you can't provide, and then you can't communicate on top of that. That's a double whammy. So it sounds like there's some underlying issues in this relationship. And if they're going to make it work, they're both going to have to get individual and marital counseling. But they definitely need some time apart. She's more invested definitely than he is, because his first choice is to leave while hers is to chase him. And that's typically the wrong way. It's usually the man pursuing the woman. So the fact that she is pursuing him and stating that she loves him and so forth, I think she needs to get counseling to help her deal with some of her own issues and also teach her how to communicate to him and with him. And then he needs to get the same, because breaking stuff, throwing stuff, arguing, yelling at each other, calling each other out the names, there's a lack of respect. And so anytime you get that upset that you lose control and you no longer respect the other person, you are in a very volatile place. And so it was wise of him to leave, and she should let him go. But they also need counseling if they're going to make that marriage work.
Now, Money, thoughts?
Man, I agree with all points of views. I mean, because this marriage is definitely built on a weak foundation, because the emotional temperature communication style is very destructive. And when it comes to disagreements, it should never go into attack mode from either side. In fact, it should be respectful, where both individuals must connect, use effective communication and comprehension, so this can provide some sort of leeway to compromise and diagnose the problem, so they can figure out the best course of action as to what leads to these massive fights. Like Tia stated, if they want this marriage to work, I highly recommend them to get in contact with a third party source, because truthfully, people have to realize in these aggressive relationships that a broken man and a broken woman reinforce each other's flawed beliefs with this sort of behavior. And when two people are broken, the foundation is unstable, which means eventually the pillars will cave in and everything will come crashing down. The reality is, before the snowball started rolling down the mountain to create this avalanche, which is related to the snowball effect and how each disrespectful level gets worse, if not challenged, or if someone does not stand up for themselves, it will accumulate negative baggage and conditions the mind that this sort of relationship is normal. And sadly, this leads to domestic violence, as you can see. And this is why respect should be the top of the pillar in every relationship. Because as I mentioned, if someone cannot respect you, then it can never love you. And in fact, I think in this relationship, love is an illusion. It's not real when someone treats you in this manner from both parties.
From both parties, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I'm just going to make a quick comment. Not everything is meant to work. Not everything is meant to be repaired. So make a conscious decision on what you want to invest your time into. All right, now we're going to jump right into our first topic. We're going to talk a little bit about aggressive communication, which fits right with this scenario, and assertive communication. Now, here's the thing. Both styles are needed depending on your situation and the problem you are trying to solve. All right. In relationships, though, aggressive communication, as we just talked about, that may not serve you well. You may want to try a different style of communication when you're dealing in a relationship. But sometimes that aggressive communication is necessary depending on what you're trying to work out. So I'm coming to you, Chance. Let's talk a little bit about when you might use aggressive communication versus assertive communication, and when you might use one over the other.
This is interesting. I would say aggressive. I kind of agree with what you said at the beginning. Like, doesn't necessarily have a lot of space in a relationship, because there has to be a mutual respect between both parties. And with aggressive communication, it kind of seems like you're stepping over that line of respectful communication. The only time I could see the possibility of using aggressive communication is if it's a situation where a decision just has to be made. And to me, aggressive communication is something that's only used as a last resort of sorts. When all else fails, once all other channels have been dealt with and there's nothing left, and a decision or a choice still has to be made. But outside of that, yeah, I would tread very lightly when it comes to aggressive communication. Now, as far as assertive, is different because there's a way to utilize assertive communication without there being that disrespect there. Assertive is just kind of the way that I perceive it anyway is it's something more of when you're sure of yourself or you're sure of a certain thing. And as long as your communication skills are good, you should be able to communicate that with your partner and have that conversation where it can be understood. And also make sure you have, just like any plan, you have your bullet points as to why whatever you're trying to communicate is important. There has to be some kind of plan or something. You don't want to just go into a serious conversation without having a plan in place, because now you're not going to be able to kind of, just like you do here. For example, you have the topic and then you have the other topics that stem from it. So should be the same with any communication, especially within a relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before I go to Terry, I want to make this give you this thought. So think about what Chance said was very, it was very enlightening because he said, aggressive communication could be used in a situation where a decision has to be made. So I got a good example. All right, just imagine a couple was sitting in a bar, and the man who usually faces the door is facing the door, and he sees somebody coming in with a gun, and he says, "Honey, get down." And she starts to talk and says, "Well, but I no, get down now." Right? So that's where an aggressive communication is necessary,
See,
and it might be acceptable. All
you
right.
better
So
than me.
yeah, no doubt. Coming to you, Terry.
Okay, I think aggressive communication does not belong in a relationship at all, because aggressive communication belongs to people outside of your relationship. You're not going to get anywhere with aggression. An aggressive conversation only leads to disrespect. And no one's going to, as a woman, and I know people are going to have a problem with me saying as a woman, but as a woman, you get more, you get more if you're softer when you deal with a man. I'm not going to come at a man like, rah, 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 rah. He's not going to listen to me. He shut down the minute I started raising my voice. So he's not going to listen to me. There's a difference. I can be assertive about something I feel very strongly about, and hopefully I'm with a man who knows that I don't I don't only assert myself if I'm very serious about something, and he will respect it then. But to be aggressive communication, calling a man out of his, you know what I'm saying? All that rah rah. I don't want that in my house. I don't want a relationship like that. I deal with that. I go in the city every day. I deal with 70 traders every day. I deal with that rah rah stuff 12 hours a day. I don't want to come home and deal with that. Seriously. So I think you're not going to get anywhere with me with aggressive talk, because number one, you're going to hurt my feelings. Number two, I'm going to be crying my eyes out. And number three, I'm going to be mad as hell and put you out. So you're not going to get anywhere with me with aggressive anything. It doesn't belong in my house. So that's my opinion.
Absolutely. Tia, thoughts on this? Tia, you
She
there?
froze.
I think she froze.
All right. Tia's having some technical difficulties. We'll get back to her right now. We're going to go to my man, Mel Money. Mel Money, your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I love what Chance and Terry Elegant put it. I mean, there are 4 different types of communication styles when it comes to relationships. There are passive communication, passive aggressive communication, and assertive communication. Now, since we're discussing these 2 forms of communication styles, the letter that I just read at the beginning of the show definitely represents aggressive communication, in which individuals express their feelings and opinions in a dominant manner to advocate for their needs in a way that violates the rights of other people. And to me, this sort of behavior is similar to Ike and Tina Turner, who are
Yeah.
prime examples of aggressive communication, which sadly led to domestic violence.
Yeah.
And I feel that normally people who communicate in this manner treats disagreements as a full-blown war, using ratchet communication verbally and non-verbally to weaponize their actions to disrespect, hurt, and win the argument by any means necessary. And this can have severe consequences. Sometimes you should be aware of when dealing with an aggressive communicator is one who does not take any accountability when they're wrong, and one who treats you inferior in a loud and bossy way. In fact, at DBDS University, which Mo and I, we discuss, we talk about the snowball effect, in which is related to an aggressive communicator. And usually there are 3 disrespectful levels when it comes to this sort of behavior. And once that sort of behavior starts to roll down the mountain and accumulates and gets bigger and bigger, it affects that person mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And when you remain in a toxic relationship, I believe that will accumulate negative baggage that renders you unattractive, which in turn will be more challenging to receive a loving relationship until you dump that negative baggage. Now, what Chance was stating, assertive communication, I believe that's the complete opposite. And this is the style where both individuals clearly state their opinions and feelings and firmly advocate for their rights and needs without violating the rights of others. And these individuals, they value themselves, their time, their emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical needs, and they are also strong advocates for themselves while also being very respectful of the rights of others. And I believe this creates a healthy, safe environment. And some of the signs you should be aware of when dealing with an assertive communicator is one who possesses self-control and clearly states their needs and wants in a respectful manner. And this is why when you first get involved with someone, you should always pay attention to their emotional temperature, whether in stressful situations, how do they react to external forces out of their control, and how they treat you as well as other people when it comes to disagreements.
Improve your relationship, improve your communication. This is DBDS Live. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 60 seconds.
If you would like to learn how to establish and maintain long-term meaningful relationships, join DBDS University today. You will learn about interpersonal relationships, first date tips, the relationship zones, emotional intelligence, and more.
Thank you to my big brothers, Mel and Mo, for creating the DBDS University with the live, the book, the website. It's helped me so much grow as an individual.
Are you single? Do you know about dbdssingles.com? Are you ready to meet a quality man or a classy woman? The DBDS brothers want you to know that love and loyalty still exists. So if you're ready to meet relationship-ready people, sign up for a free trial. dbdssingles.com, where quality men meet classy women.
What up, y'all? Back in the DBDS Live studio. Got my girl Tia back. What's up, Tia? Tia's having difficulties today, but it's all good, man. We're going to work with it because that's what we do. DBDS Live, man. We work with it. So check this out. Right now, we're going to continue our discussion. We are talking about effective communication. We're going to go into our next topic where we're talking about active versus passive listening. All right. So check this out. Let me go ahead and cue this up. You know, everything in this world must have an input and an output in order for it to work properly, right? So think about it this way. Take a seed, for example, right? You got to take a seed and you plant it in the ground, right? That's the input. And then it grows a nice, pretty flower, right? That's the output, right? With communication is no different. There's an input and an output, right? So when one person is talking, the other person is listening. So when you're listening, that's the input. When you're talking, that's the output. You got to have both. So communication involves both talking and listening. You know, those two things go together. So there's a couple different types of ways to listen. There's active listening and there's passive listening. Okay. Active listening is something where you acknowledge the person as they speak. Okay, they're saying something. Maybe you regurgitate what they said. Maybe you just kind of give them head nods. Let them know that you heard what they said. And then passive listening is when you show no emotion at all. You don't acknowledge that you're listening at all. Both are needed. You need them for different reasons. However, one may serve you better than the other at a particular time. So right now, let's talk a little bit about active and passive listening. I'm coming to you, Mel Money. Talk to us about active and passive listening.
Yeah, well, before I provide you with my insight, I'd like to give a shout out to the people watching the show. I want to give a shout out to Henry. Henry stated responses rather than reactions when he's talking about the different forms of communication.
Nice.
Shout out to Veronica. She said great topics. Shout out to my girl Jessica Fabuloa. My girl Synovia. Shout out to the DBDS ambassador Nicole. Shout out to her. Shout out to Jennifer. Shout out to Jasmine Cross. Shout out to everyone tuning into the show. I'll continue to give some shout outs throughout the show. Okay. So as far as active versus passive listening, passive listening is listening without, in my view, reacting to the messenger. In other words, allowing the other person to speak without any interruption. And to me, that's a one-way form of communication because simply there's no exchange. For example, if you're listening to music or you're watching one of my favorite shows on Netflix, Ozark, digesting every single plot line to understand the entire story, that's passive listening because you want to know what's going on, right? Now, active listening refers to hearing something with the intention of not only listening to understand what that person is saying, but also to paraphrase or provide some sort of feedback to the messenger. So this represents a two-way communication form, which is fully illustrated at DBDS University, known as the LVA method. And I believe this simple tool can help people during the dating process or within their relationship to connect to that person they are talking to or to, I'll say, add a dynamic flair to their relationship. Now, just to break it down quickly, the L in the LVA method stands for listen, which means you must have open ears to listen to the words that are coming out of that person's mouth. The second letter V stands for verify, which means you can do this verbally or non-verbally, which shows that the person said what this person said to you, it actually registers with you, like Mo mentioned with the head nodding and so forth. And finally, the A within the LVA method stands for acknowledge, because I feel somewhat within that moment of conversation, you should show that you appreciate that person. And this simply means that the more you listen, the more you verify, and the more you acknowledge that particular person, the more you can connect mentally and emotionally, which will increase the attraction level.
Yes, thank you. Listen, we're gonna try to bring my girl Tia in now. I think we got the technical difficulties out the way. Let's see if this is gonna work now. Hello, Tia.
She's
Uh-oh.
mute.
She got the
Oh,
mute. Let me get
There
off.
you go.
Okay, there we go. How about now, Tia? You back?
okay, there I am. Yes,
We got Tia back. Welcome back to DVDS Live. Glad to have you back.
Thanks.
I'm gonna come into you now and put you right under pressure because you've been gone. So I want you to respond to this. So we talking about active and passive listening. All right, we trying to figure out exactly when to use which one and what's best for you in what situation. So talk a little bit about that active versus passive listening.
So, piggybacking off of what Tramel just said, the active listening is attentively listening to what the person is saying, hearing what they're saying, not waiting or formulating an opinion in your mind or a response in your head while they're talking, but really hearing what the person is saying and being able to repeat it back to them so that you're clear on what they're saying. Because sometimes we're listening, but we don't necessarily hear what they're saying. And so when you repeat it back to them, just to make sure, let me be clear that this is what you're saying to me, because this is what I heard. That way, if the person meant something different than what you took it for, they have an opportunity to explain and clarify what they meant by what they said. Now, the passive listening is my foreplay. Okay, because if you piss me off, I'm going to hear you, but I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to sit there because I'm not going to indulge you. And if I feel like it's going to escalate into an argument or a disagreement of some sort, I will give myself as well as you time to cool down a little bit before I respond. Because when I respond from an emotional perspective, I'm not going to get the best outcome, at least not the outcome I'm looking for. So when I wait and I hear you talking, but I'm not going to respond because I'm giving myself time to calm down so that I can be rational in my response. That way I don't lash out, because if you keep poking at a bear, eventually they will attack you. But if I sit there with my little bit of honey in my jar and just stir it up while you're talking, we'll have a better outcome. So I agree that both of them are equally useful in a relationship. And that means all relationships, not just romantic, but platonic as well. But there's a big difference between the two. There are some times when you use the passive and it's going to fuel the fire because the person knows that you're ignoring them. So when it's done because it's a mechanism where I'm trying to de-escalate the situation a little bit, that's one thing. But if it's me intentionally ignoring you because I'm being disrespectful, that's something different. Or if you're ignoring me in a disrespectful way, that's something different.
Absolutely. You have to recognize the nuances of this passive and active listening, I want to come to you, Terry. Talk a little bit about this active and passive listening.
This is a very good topic for me because number one, I can be a bad listener. One, I have ADD. So and I work in an environment where it is good to have ADD because I have like a million people coming at me, asking me a million things, telling me a million things to do. So a lot of times I have to make a conscious effort I hear them, I can't say anything to them, so I nod. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's harder for me because in my relationship, I come home, somebody's talking to me, I do the same thing because it's out of habit, but I really didn't hear him. I didn't hear what he said. And so this is a struggle for me because at work, it's like, okay, because not that I'm listening to them, I just know what they want. And so I'm just like, I need to focus on what I'm doing. Okay, yeah. So I have a bad habit of nodding my head or giving some form of acknowledgement to someone, and I'm not listening to them at all. And so this is a little bit harder for me. Passive, if I do passive, you need to basically call hazmat and call the police and call the fire department because somebody's going to die. If I ignore you totally and I'm sitting there and I'm not saying anything, there's going to be a body and it's not going to be, trust me. Damn. So, the nodding, I try really hard. I know if I'm ignoring you, that means the rage is building up. That means I'm about to strike. To go off of what Tya said, if I'm quiet, be scared, be real scared, because it takes so much to make me angry. But the active thing, it works for me. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I almost think it's a bad habit sometimes, like, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard.
Absolutely. So listen, I want to tell y'all this quick story. My one experience I had with passive listening, which, usually I'm pretty good at judging people's character, but this one I had it way off. So, and this was in a work environment. So I'm in a work environment and I'm working with one of my staff and I'm talking to her and she has her head down. She's writing something and there's no eye contact, and I'm telling her, some instructions on and trying to have a conversation with her. And while I was doing that, I was kind of getting a little upset. I'm like, man, she's not even making eye contact. She's not acknowledging nothing, right? You know what? That lady heard everything I said. She knew exactly what was going on, and she followed through 100%, right? It didn't occur to me, man. I was like, I had to go think about this because this is what we do, as we're in this relationship, space. So I went and thought about it, and it occurred to me, man. I was like, she's a mom. She got tons of kids. She can do that, man. This is what Terry was talking about, right? She got 5 kids running around. She knows where every one of them is. She knows what the hell is going on, when dinner's gonna be cooked, And I was like, it hit me though. I was like, how the hell did she do that? So it's like, she's a mom, man. I was like, wow. Chance, my man, talk to me about this one, man. Active versus passive listening.
Well, look, most of y'all done hit the nails on the head with your responses. But with Terri, whoever your cable subscriber is, make sure you take the ID network off of her ID channel off her network, because we don't need no more bodies within our community. That's a definite. Yeah, we ain't trying to do that. But getting back to the subject at hand, yeah, the passive, and I like what you said, Mo, because you're right. Women, especially like you said, women that have a lot on their plate or multiple children, they're so good at multitasking that you in your mind, because you're used to a certain type of communication, so in your mind you're like, well, if this person isn't looking at me, they're clearly not listening or paying attention, and that clearly may not be the case. And no one has mastered, I mean, I'm just going to put this out there, ain't no one mastered no communication better than the Black woman. I don't care who you're talking about. The Black woman has got communication on lock. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to say there's not some things that they need to work on, because we all got things we need to work on. But no one does it better than the Black woman. The Black woman is the foundation and the key to the Black community. Always has been, always will be, bar none. But excuse me, I'm glad I'm coughing over here and you can't get it over there. I might be giving you some. Thank you, I appreciate that. But as far as the active, yes, the active is definitely important. Like you said, it's important for the person passing the information to know that the person receiving it is actually into the conversation. So yeah, I can see the benefit of both of these things within a relationship.
Absolutely, no question. Man, Mel Money. Any people on Facebook, bro? Before we go into the next topic.
Yes, my man Henry said passive listening, hearing sounds are obedient sounds. Active listening, not only recognizing the words, but also understanding context, recognizing the tone of what is said, and acknowledge the plight of that person. Okay. Great, Henry. Okay. Shout out to everyone watching the show. We greatly appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. We're gonna run right into our next topic. Now, here's the thing. As much as our world, our society tries to make our men and women equal, we will forever remain different. Especially when it comes to communication. All right. So look, here's the thing. I gotta tell y'all a story now. Sit back and relax. Everybody got their drinks. Sit back and relax. Now, I'm in the room with 5 women, right? I'm the only male in the room with 5 women, all right? And they start a conversation. They start talking, okay? What am I witnessing? They're talking over each other. They're answering before the sentence is completed. Some of them are crying and emotional during the conversation, you know? And I'm sitting there thinking, man, what is going on, right? I'm lost, man. I could not even follow the conversation. But every single one of them knew exactly what the hell was going on, right? I'm the only dude in the room. I don't know what's going on, right? And so I'm sitting there watching this thing. I was confused as hell. I didn't understand one word they was talking about. But you know what? What I noticed was it was almost like they were liberated when they communicate. Right. And maybe that's what it's all about, being liberated when you communicate, being able to just fully express yourself, because men communicate totally different. All right. We speak with conviction and don't like to be interrupted. We use data, and sometimes some of them use BS. OK, our pain is masked, but anger is OK. When you're talking to another guy. Right. Even if it's their best friend or their homie, they won't share everything. So it's a bit restrictive. So compared to how the women communicated, I've noticed that. And it's like, man, just communicating with a woman and communicating with a man is totally different. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm coming to you, Tia. Talk to me about the differences between communicating with women and communicating with men.
Huge difference. Huge difference. It's like night and day. Huge difference. Women are more detail oriented. And men tend to be just give me the basics. Give me the what it is and what it's not. Men want to solve the problem. Tell me what the problem is. Let's figure out a solution. That's been my experience. I can't speak for all men, but my experience has been that men just want the bottom line. They want to solve the problem. What's going on? How can we fix it? And then let's move on. Where women, we want to talk about it a little bit. We want to dissect it. We want to, look at all the different intricate pieces and try to figure out the whys behind it, where men aren't trying to figure out the why. They're like, okay, you don't have no money? Here's money. You want ice cream? Here's ice cream. Where women are like, well, I don't know if I want butterscotch or butter pecan or maple walnut, or maybe I feel like strawberry or chocolate. So we communicate very, very different. Now, when we communicate with each other, we struggle. Women communicate with each other differently than the way they communicate with men, because with a woman, we can cry, we can be totally transparent. When it comes to a man, when we start breaking down, crying and doing all that kind of stuff, he's like, what did I do? He doesn't understand that I'm crying because I'm emotional. This hurt me, because he doesn't have that part of him. You know what I mean? Like, that part of him hasn't been nurtured and developed. I'm not saying he's not emotional. I'm just saying he doesn't connect that way when he's communicating. His communication is through action, where our communication is an emotional way of communicating. That's my take on everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe it. Mel Money, what's your thoughts on this, man?
And
Communicate with women, communicate with men.
everything Tia said is right on the money, because I truly feel as men, we kind of believe in the destination. And I think women go by the journey on the way they communicate things, so this is extremely important, because as men, I think when we communicate, we should communicate with confidence. And the more that we're comfortable in our own skin, I think brothers will be a magnet to attract classy women. Because since we touched on these communication styles, normally from a man's perspective, whoever is asking the questions is the one who is leading the conversation. And I believe the brother should be the one leading the conversation. And this way, a brother can always pay attention to a woman's response and how she gauges with him. And this further illustrates, as Tia nicely said, that in my view, women are physically designed to be open and receptive only when the brother builds enough rapport during the dating process for her to feel comfortable enough for her to lower her wall and engage with him. But part of what I always mention to brothers, that when you first meet a woman that you're attracted to, was to remember that beauty should never be enough. And you should always collect data to see if logically, if this woman can enhance your life, and also see if this beautiful woman have some sort of chemistry with you. And as long as you know how to communicate to that level, and the emotions is like the gas, and you press on it and you can engage her emotions, the more comfortable she will feel around you. This is why when we communicate, compared to the thirsty brothers, a strong grounded brother compared to a thirsty brother, he treats us as if indifference makes a difference when you first meet an attractive woman, because it separates him from all the other guys that is so eager and desperate to lock a woman down in 2 or 1 day. So, my take on it, what Tia, everything that she mentioned is absolutely true on the different communication styles between men and women.
Absolutely. Terry, what's your thoughts on this? Communicating with women versus communicating with men.
I'm just going to throw salt in the whole entire game.
I know where you're going.
Because my family calls me man. I am very much, because I work, my industry where I work, it's mostly men that I deal with, and that's how I communicate. I'm very much like, I don't want to hear the long road to the solution. I want you to tell me directly, exactly, use 5 words or less, and tell me what's the problem, and so I can fix it. I don't want to hear about how hurt you are, what this happened. Just get to the point. Get to the damn point. Let's solve it. Let's talk about it and move on. I am not the average woman who takes the long road to a problem. So I think, you have to look at all aspects of a woman. You have to look at, where she works, how she's groomed. You know what I'm saying? I come from a financial industry. I come from where people throw computers and throw phones, and cursing is like, you have to curse to earn respect. If you don't curse, they're going to run over you. You know what I mean? So I come from a very in your face kind of communication. I want direct answers. And a lot of that could be also when I get home or when I'm relaxing. I don't have time to go through the whole process with you. If you're upset about something, tell me. Tell me directly. I don't care how awful you may think it sounds, but just tell me directly, because once you start taking the long road, as I said, I have ADD. I only heard 1 or 2 words. I didn't hear the rest. And so, I don't know. That a lot of men, believe it or not, I'm never disrespectful. I never call a man out his name. I am direct. And a lot of men take a woman being very straightforward and direct as aggression. It's not aggression. It's just, you have to understand where I come from. To know who I am and where I come from means your intent on loving me or caring about me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not that soft, and you don't want me to be that soft, cushy woman, because I wouldn't be successful in what I do for a living. I can't be this, flower on a trading floor with 70 men screaming and yelling. You know what I mean? I have to be the person who gets in there and gets it done. But it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes. I don't want to hear the whole whatever, and I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you straight. And I don't know, you have to be a certain kind of man to handle that.
Absolutely. And that's why one of the things we do on DBDS University, we talk about communication types. So I'm just going to throw these out there real quick. If you want to know more, go to DBDS University. You can take the course and learn more about it. But there's basically 4 main types of communicators. There's dominant, amiable, analytical, and expressive. And so what Terry's talking about is more of the dominant style, because they just want the bottom line. We got stuff to do. I don't got a lot of time to talk to you. All right. So if you want more information, go to DBS University. Right now, I'm going to my man Chance. Chance, talk to me about this: communicating with women, communicating with men.
Well, this is interesting for me because my background, and with all these communication forms we're talking about, a lot of it has to do with not just the male-female perspective, but like Terry said, upbringing, certain things. There's so many things that go into it. Me, for example, I was raised by all women. Never had a male figure in my life. So I have that attentiveness and that willingness to listen, because that's all I knew growing up, being around all women. And these were strong Black women. I was raised by my grandmother, who ended up being widowed, and other Black women that were divorced, and some that never been in relationships. So I had the whole spectrum right there, a whole bunch of Black women from different backgrounds that were very, how can I say it, independent. And that gave me the ability to understand and appreciate women more. So I think I have an openness that a lot of men don't have. But on the flip side, I've lacked something as well, because I didn't have that male perspective to be there. So I kind of, I haven't had a lot of male communication. So I would be lying to even speak upon that, because it's something that I don't. And you know what? This is how real I'm going to get with you. I'm going to tell you why I don't have the male communication. It isn't because I didn't have a father figure or anybody there, but I've had something happen to me later on in life with a male, an experience. It was a bad experience, and it led me to not even want to deal with men. And that creates even other complications, because now I'm in a marriage. I got about 4,500 Facebook friends, predominantly all women. How is that going to make my wife feel? Because I don't have this relationship with men based on experiences that I had. So I'm only comfortable with women, so it makes her feel intimidated, because, man, you look down my page, I'm telling you, there's some bad one. Yeah. They there, and but the thing is, they're there because I have business ventures that I'm trying to do. And because before I started having my business ventures, I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about none of that. I had about 50 people that I knew, and I was cool with that, because I don't really relate to people like that. So, but once business came in, I said, okay, I have to, be more sociable and get out there. But yeah, I don't really have very much to say about male on male, because I don't have it. Shoot, the two of you, I have more communication with the two of you than I do in my everyday life.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that and just say, listen, I'm a pretty good judge of character. That's what I do. I assess people's character, and from the interactions I've had with you, Chance, bro, you ain't nothing missing, man. You good. Trust me, man, because there's a lot of fake brothers
Exactly,
out
brother.
here, man.
I appreciate that,
Straight
brother.
up, man. You good.
Absolutely, man.
You all set, man. Right, Mel Money?
Absolutely, man. And it's a pleasure and an honor for you even to come on the show and share that experience, man. So I have even more respect for you. Always have respect, but I have even more respect for you, brother. You know.
Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
No doubt. Now,
Absolutely.
all right, y'all, we about to jump into our last topic. Last topic here
Uh-oh.
is going to help everybody out, man. This is something everybody need to
Okay.
know. Everybody going to get a little personal. I mean, Chance already set the stage. Chance took it up
What
a
you
notch,
want
man.
to do?
Chance set the bar, man. Chance set the bar.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So this is what we're going to do, man. Last topic we want to talk about is how to find the best way to communicate with the partner, right?
Oh.
So now we all got relationships, right? So what is it that you're gonna do to find out how this person likes to be communicated with? There's a process, man. You got to find these things out, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm coming straight to you, Terry. You look like you got some information. Let's talk to us. How would you find out the best way to communicate with the partner? What strategies, what process you gonna follow?
So the first thing is, so this is my dating style. Well, number one, I will especially if I met someone online, or even if I meet someone in person, I like to text with them a little bit because most men do not like to text. They like to go straight to the chase to get on the phone. No, I want to see if a man is willing to go through the hardship of texting before he gets the phone. You know what I'm saying?
You asking a lot.
Right here. This one, boy, Terry.
They hate to text. So I take a man through, you got to go through at least a week of consistent texting with the typos, I ask you questions. I want you to put in effort. So number one, now I'm gauging what your willingness, your willingness to, to communicate over text. Because a lot of times I'm being selfish. At my job, I can't talk on the phone. So if I have something to tell you, I want to make sure that you can communicate effectively through text. There's a method to my madness. Number two, when you get on the phone, I want to make sure that you have command of the English language. Let me repeat that. Command of the English language, and you can communicate yourself effectively. A lot of men get on the phone and they are so used to street slang and what I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know what the hell you said. Seriously, the last 5 minutes of you speaking, these Tia, am I lying? She laughed because she know I ain't lying. I don't even know what the hell you said. Can you use the King's language? That's what I know. That's what I grew up with. Okay. By the time I see you in person, I hope that she laughing because she know when I meet you in person, I hope you have the ability to hold it together, and be able to have a conversation. A lot of men just like to hear themselves talk. Ask about me. Ask about my day. I don't need you to sit there and give me your resume. I don't need you to sit there and run down everything, because all that says to me is that you don't care. You're presenting yourself and I have to say, oh, I like it. You're not engaging me. That, like I said, I'm going to go back to my whole thing. Men suck at communication.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Listen. That right there is the triathlon of communication. You got to make it through that whole triathlon if you want to deal with Terry. As simple as that. I'm coming to you, Tia.
I'm with it.
Absolutely. So I'm coming to you, Tia. Help me out with this one. We talking about how to find.
I wish I had something in this cup.
You wish I had. What's the best way to find out how somebody wants to communicate? What's your process? How you find that out?
Well, first of all, I do agree with Terry with regards to men that do not speak English. I don't speak Ebonics. I hate slang, so don't come at me like that. Secondly, in my relationship, it took us 3 years to learn how very strong-willed and dominating, and so we bumped heads. All you heard was clicking of two bulls coming of like a struggle, authority almost. And then we would be exhausted when we hung up the phone. He would go to sleep and I will go to sleep because we're completely drained trying to communicate when we're not communicating at all. So what I did was one day I just waved the right flag. I was like, I can't fight with you like this. This is ridiculous. We can't even have a conversation because we're busy going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you want to have the last word and I want to have the last word. You want to be right. I want to be right. We're not getting anywhere. So one day I just stopped. I had by this time I had learned what his triggers were. And I also learned how he communicated. So I could tell when I know his tones. I know his body language. I know his facial features. I know it down to the mole on his nose. I can tell when he talks a certain way, when his has a certain tone to it, I can tell he's aggravated. And so I approach him in a different respect, when I know he's aggravated. And when he's in a playful mood, I can tell he's in a for me, it's about learning the other person, and you've got to study them because every man is different. Every man is different. I don't care how good you guys communicate in your relationship. When you meet the next one, you're back at ground zero, blank slate. You got to start all over and figure out how this person communicates. And then you've got to teach them how to communicate with you, because they're going to come into it trying to talk to you the way they've talked to every woman. And I'm not the average. So what holds her attention doesn't hold mine. And I love and I'm stimulated by a man that can hold a conversation. So where Terri does her test through texting, I hate texting. So if you text me, I'm not going to respond. I will give you one word, hey. And then after that, you need to pick up the phone, because I'm not going to sit here and keep going back and forth writing messages through text, because I can't speak, I can't hear, I can't decipher what you mean through words. I need to hear your voice. So, but for me, I'll start engaging you in all different types of conversations about any and everything under the sun, because I need to know that you can keep up with me intellectually. So whether I'm talking about work, whether I'm talking about politics, whether I'm talking about religion, whether I'm talking about children, marriage, love, life, happiness, travel, whatever it is, I'm going to take you through all of them to see if you can keep up. I'm also learning you, because I know what I like. So now let me see if what I like is what you like. And the only way I'm going to learn that is by communicating. So I literally study them to find out how they communicate, what their triggers are, what their buttons are, and how to recognize when they're, what mood they're in, so that I can communicate with them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. If you're not an effective communicator, we're probably not going to be talking very long.
I agree.
I can't do anything else. I need you to communicate with me. But I had to teach him how to communicate with me. He didn't know how to tell me I'm upset or what you said made me feel some type of way. He had no clue. And then after I took 3 years for us to figure it out. We haven't argued in 5 years and 6 years. 6 years. Never argue. We get in disagreement, but we never argue.
There's a big difference. That's a key point you just said. A big difference between argument and disagreement. Yep. Big
Chance,
difference.
my man, what's your thoughts on this, Chance?
Well, let me go back to a couple of points. The good news for Terri, being that she's a texter, even though I don't agree with texting either, is this is the perfect time during this COVID-19 thing. It might work for you. Because hey, both ain't trying to get that close. But yeah, I can't stand texting. I'm old school. I'm old fashioned. I'm about, if I can be in your face, let me be in your face. But at the very least, let me hear your voice, because I can pick up certain things through your voice. You can't pick up anything through a text. A text is just nothing but words in front of you. I could say I love you. You don't know whether I'm saying yeah, whatever, I love you, or hey baby, I love you. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, girl, I love you, girl. I love you.
So good luck with that texting thing. But me, I would say this. As far as how to best communicate with my partner, when you have two adults coming together and they both have their certain idiosyncrasies about themselves, or whatever the case is, you have to be willing to take the the stance of being a student rather than the teacher. See, you have two teachers coming together, trying to learn one another. On both sides have to give up that teaching status in order to become students of one another, to understand where the other person's coming from. So I've always considered myself to be an excellent student. And especially, I mean, it's just like this. Like for example, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to go there because that's what Chance do. It's the same thing like sexually. I'm not going to assume what you want sexually. I'm going to ask, what is it that I can do to satisfy you? You know, because if I'm just doing it on my own, I'm doing what I think might please you, but it might be something different for you, because we're all, like you said, the foundation of us is all basically the same, but it's the branches that stem from that foundation that make us all different. So we're uniquely different from one another. I don't know who made the statement about, I believe it was Tya, about, you know, you starting with a new slate. Any relationship you go into, it's a brand new thing. You can't take from the last relationship what you use into this new one. So the best thing that I can do is put myself in the role of a student and ask questions. That way I'll be able to know what it is. And as a person that has a security background, all I do is observe. So it's a habit for me. Even when I would go talk to professionals, I would tell the professionals that I was talking to, I'm observing you too. You know, so don't think that you just learning me. I'm learning you.
Absolutely, man. For real,
Right?
man. That's a real deal right there. Listen, man. Chance, when you talk about the bedroom, man, you know, all I could think of was, you know, she said, listen, I need you to dress up like Batman. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna dress up like Batman.
Throw that outfit on, boy.
Look,
Throw that
I'm
outfit
gonna be the
man.
Dark Knight for real.
Throw the black signal up there, boy. Throw that bat signal up there in the sky, baby. Boom, there you go.
Oh, there's gonna be some smoke signals going on up in that piece.
Chance. We gave you a chance, and look how you're behaving. Oh.
Mel Money, what's your thoughts on this one? Mel Money? Learning how to communicate with a partner.
Well, I think in today's society, too many people are trying to take shortcuts to love. It's almost like that microwave type of relationship, instead of putting that communication within the oven and letting it just take its time. So I believe that before that person even becomes your partner, knowing how to communicate with that person you're attracted to should apply to just getting to know them within the friend zone. And Mo, you know, we talk about the strategic zones that we teach a lot. And within the friend zone, I feel that you shouldn't have sex at all. You should be mindful to see if this person has the same values and more goals parallel with yours. And this is also where you should pay attention to their communication style that we went over as we discussed, and to observe their emotional temperature to see if this particular person's emotional control, is this person a thermostat, which means they are in control of their emotions despite what life throws at them, or is their emotional sense is a thermometer, which means reacting to external forces with little to no emotional control. And this is also where a person should, I feel, collect data and to see if there's any compatibility and to see if there's any chemistry before phasing into the intimacy zone or allowing that person to smash your chocolate chip cookies. So this is why it's very important and critical to always take your time instead of rushing in when you first meet someone who you are extremely attracted to. You want to get a sense of who you're dealing with.
Boom. Listen, y'all, this is DBDS Live. We're talking effective communication. We're going to take a quick 90-second break. When we come back, we're going to have our Jerry Springer moment. Everybody going to do their final summary. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
If you would like to learn how to establish and maintain long-term meaningful relationships, join DBDS University today. You will learn about interpersonal relationships, first date tips, the relationship zones, emotional intelligence, and more.
Say thank you to my big brothers, Mel and Mo, for creating the DBDS University with the live, the book, the website. It's helped me so much grow as an individual.
Are you single? Do you know about dbdssingles.com? Are you ready to meet a quality man or a classy woman? The DBDS brothers want you to know that love and loyalty still exists. So if you're ready to meet relationship-ready people, sign up for a free trial. dbdssingles.com, where quality men meet classy women. Dear brothers, it's about quality, not quantity.
So guys, it should be your conversation, the way you flow, your presence is enough for a woman to want to be around you, not how much money you spend.
Dear sisters, it's about knowing your value.
My sisters out there, don't be afraid to scare a guy off just because you have standards.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, it's time to come together.
What up, y'all? Back in the studio, back in the DBDS Live studio. We're here with Terry. Whoa, Terry, what you doing, Terry?
Wait. I'm acting crazy.
I'm like, what the hell?
What is Terry doing?
What the hell?
Okay, bring me back.
You back.
Hold on a second.
The-
What is going on?
Oh.
Oh no. Yeah.
We got-
We got that.
We
Okay.
got several
Why
Terrys.
am I not
We got two
muted?
there.
We got two
Don't
Terrys.
mute
Two
me.
Terrys.
We got two Terrys. Terry, how you do that?
Oh,
Terry
that's
got
how.
I don't know.
personality.
Okay,
All right.
now we got. Here we go.
God, dog, boy. Hold on, man. Hey, let me take this from the top, man. I'm all jacked up right now. DVD is live, man. We back in this. Where you going? Come back. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
That's aggressive communication right there.
Hey, y'all, we back in the
Oh, no, she's
studio.
not.
It's
Uh-oh.
about that.
Now she's muted.
It's about that time.
She's signing.
Muted? Is she muted?
She
Yeah.
said, I'm coming at you. I'm coming to get you.
Hey, y'all.
He's signing.
We trying to get through these final summaries, man. So listen,
man. Oh,
hold on. We gonna check to make sure Terry good. You good? You good, Terry?
She's muted. Yes.
Excuse me, she have to hit the mute.
Unmute yourself, Terry. There you go. Try now. You back in the studio, Terry?
No.
Oh man, she's still
Oh
out.
man.
This is strange. All right, check this out, y'all. We're gonna take Terry out the studio for a moment. See if we can get this right.
Okay.
Hold on, everybody sit tight. We're gonna deal with this technical difficulty real quick before we get live. All right, now we go. I don't know what happened. Terry had like two sections going on. Let's see if we can get her back. All right, well we're gonna put on hold for right now. She looked like she logged off. She'll log back on. We'll get her back in a minute. But right now, we're gonna start our final summaries for today's show. We were talking about effective communication, and right now I'm gonna go to my man Chance. Let him drop his final thoughts.
Well, final. Order to find out, how the person that they may have that they're interested in communicates and whether it fits with who you are as an individual. This is the most important aspect. As you said, Trey, it's so important to go through stages. Unfortunately, a lot of adults, let's keep it 100. A lot of us are so quick to get to the physical aspect of the relationship that we don't invest enough time in the communication aspect, which is so much more important. That physical, come on. Once you've been on the rides in the amusement park, you done rode all the rides, you know what I'm saying? Unless you have a connection with a certain ride, it's kind of the same old. There's nothing special. So the specialness has to come through the communication and getting to know that person as an individual. And this is what we're learning through this conversation. And I applaud you fellas for even giving us this platform to do so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Brother. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna bring Terry back in. Let me bring Terry back in. You there, Terry?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes,
Hey.
loud and clear. Welcome back, girl. Welcome back. In fact, if you're ready and you got your final summary, I'm coming straight to you. You ready with your final summary?
Oh my God! Just put a girl on the spot. I just got
Just
in
like
and wiped
that.
my feet at the doormat. Anyway,
You like
my final. I do. Anyway, my final summary is number one, it's all communication. You have to look at all aspects of the person that you're working with. You have to look at their upbringing, what they do for a living, where they are in their lives, younger versus older, what kind of friends they have, what kind of lifestyle they live. That all comes into, whether you believe it or not, how that person communicates. And so, a lot of times we make a lot of mistakes because we try to ignore the exterior, factors, but they matter. They really do matter. And you also have to figure out what you need, what you require. Because a lot of times we just go into a relationship and we're like, okay, I could deal with it. But in long-term situations, when real problems come up, you have to be able to understand how that person communicates, how you're willing to receive information, how you're willing to process what that person's saying. So it's just, you have to spend time getting to know someone. You have to spend time going through hard times. You have to spend time talking about things. A lot of times, people don't want to talk about things. You need to talk about it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the mundane, it all matters. It all matters.
Tia, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is if you want to be in any kind of a relationship, you're going to have to learn how to communicate. And the biggest of communicating is learning how to communicate with yourself, because you have to be in touch with your own emotions, your own feelings, your own whatever it may be, background history, etc. And you have to know how that factors into your way of communicating before you can appropriately respond and address being in a relationship with someone else. I think the first key to communication is self-communication and then communicating with others. Pay attention, study them, don't assume, ask questions, and it's okay if you do.
Absolutely. Mel Money, final thoughts, brother.
Well, first, I want to thank the lovely Tia, Terri, Chance.
Thank you.
You guys are simply phenomenal, and I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys coming on the show. No, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
Thank you.
So to finish this off, I would just like to say open and honest communication is so important when you are looking for a long-term relationship or a lifetime partner. And this is why it's critical to understand and look for traits that are sustainable in a relationship. A brother's muscles, his deep voice, his tattoos, and a woman's body, her smile, and the way she dresses may be attractive, but they do not sustain a relationship. What sustains a relationship is how you communicate, what's your emotional temperature, and how you non-verbally show that you value and appreciate that person. Once you understand the basic fundamentals, you will attract the right person to create a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. All right, now, so I want to also thank our guests, you guys, man. Every time I have a show, thank you, Terry, thank you, Tia, thank you, Chance. Every time I have a show, I learn something new. I'm gonna tell you what I learned this show. Okay, communication is a custom process. All right, you got to customize it to each person. It's no different than behaviors, because y'all know some people who like to be under the covers and put the fan on, right? You got to learn that about people, right? They do that, right? There's some people that need the TV on to get to sleep. That's a custom process. You learn that about a person. That's no difference than how you're going to communicate with them. All right. So remember, y'all, have that custom process, have that communication, and learn the person you're with. Mel Money, send us off.